My name is Frank, and at 62 years old, I figured I'd seen most of what life had to offer in the way of disappointment. I was wrong. Nothing, absolutely nothing, could have prepared me for the series of events that would completely upend everything I thought I knew about being a father. It all started on a crisp Wednesday morning in April. I was enjoying a cup of coffee and the morning paper when a sharp knock echoed from my front door. It was my neighbor, Mrs. Gable, her face lit up with an excitement I couldn't immediately place. She was clutching her phone, eagerly scrolling through what were unmistakably wedding photos. "Frank, dear, I had no idea Chloe was getting married. The photos are just breathtaking. You must be bursting with pride." I just stared at her, a fog of confusion settling over me. Wedding photos? She noticed my blank expression and turned the phone toward me. And there she was. My daughter, Chloe, my only child, radiant in a magnificent white gown, beaming beside a man named Jason in a tuxedo that probably cost more than my first car. The setting was opulent, some grand estate I'd never seen before, nestled in the mountains. In the background, dozens of people, at least 70 by my quick count, were all dressed in their finest, celebrating what was clearly the social event of the season. My knees felt like they might give out. "When was this?" I managed to ask, my voice sounding distant and hollow. "Just yesterday, according to the Post. Look how happy she looks." Yesterday. My daughter had gotten married yesterday, and I hadn't known a thing about it. Somehow, I managed a weak smile, thanked Mrs. Gable, and gently closed the door. The moment it clicked shut, I scrambled for my phone, my heart pounding against my ribs. I called Chloe. Straight to voicemail. I tried again. Voicemail. My hands were trembling as I found Jason's number. He picked up on the third ring, his voice dripping with a casual indifference that felt like a slap. "Oh, hey, Frank. What's up? What's up?" My voice cracked. "I just saw pictures. You and Chloe, you got married yesterday. What's up is that nobody told me my only daughter was getting married." There was a beat of silence, followed by a long, weary sigh, as if I'd phoned to complain about the weather. "Yeah, we got married. It was just a small thing, you know. Only special people. We didn't want anyone there who might, well, embarrass the family." Embarrass the family. The words landed like a physical blow. I stood frozen in my own kitchen, the very room where I'd made Chloe 1,000 pancake breakfasts, where I'd helped her with her calculus homework, and where I'd bandaged her scraped knees. And now, I was the one who would embarrass her. "Jason. I'm her father." "Look, Frank, it's nothing personal," he said, his tone unchanged. "Chloe just wanted everything to be perfect, you know? Classy. We had her boss there, my partners from the firm, and people from the Crestwood Country Club. It needed to project a certain appearance. I wasn't good enough for their curated appearance. I glanced around my modest home, the one I'd worked 35 years at the automotive plant to pay off. I thought of my reliable, 10-year-old sedan, my work clothes hanging neatly in the closet. I had been a foreman, a job that required sweat and integrity. It was honest work that had paid for Chloe's degree from the University of Colorado, her first car, and her apartment in Denver when she was starting out. "Where is Chloe? I need to talk to her." "She's sleeping in." The honeymoon was exhausting. We just got back from Aspen. Really exclusive place. Worth every penny, though. Honeymoon. They'd already squeezed in a quick mini-moon while I sat at home, oblivious. After Jason hung up, I sank onto my living room couch, the images Mrs. Gable had shown me replaying in my mind. Chloe looked happy, truly, incandescently happy. But in that crowd of 70 smiling faces, her father was conspicuously absent. I spent the rest of the day in a daze, trying to pinpoint when the chasm between us had grown so wide. When Chloe was growing up, especially after her mother passed away when she was 16, it was just the two of us against the world. She used to call me every week when she first moved to the city, asking for my chili recipe or just to complain about her boss. But then Jason entered the picture 2 years ago. The calls slowly dwindled. When I did see her, Jason was a constant presence, subtly steering conversations away from my life and toward his. He'd make little comments about my house needing updates, or my car being ancient. I remembered a dinner at their apartment a year ago where he chuckled at my confusion over their complicated European coffee machine. "It's an import, Frank. You probably wouldn't get it." Chloe had laughed along with him, a sharp, unfamiliar sound. Looking back, the pattern was brutally clear. It had been a slow, calculated exclusion. I had been demoted from parent to embarrassment, so slowly and methodically that I hadn't realized it was happening. The man who had raised her, sacrificed for her, and loved her unconditionally was now too common, too blue-collar, to witness her wedding day. My phone finally rang late that evening. It was Chloe. "Daddy?" Her voice was small, hesitant. "Chloe. I heard you called Jason. I found out about your wedding from Mrs. Gable. She saw the pictures on social media." A heavy silence stretched between us. I waited, praying for an apology, for any sign that she understood the profound depth of her betrayal. "Daddy, you have to understand," she finally said. "It was Jason's family that paid for everything. They have certain expectations." Even her excuse shrank down to money and appearances. It wasn't about love, or family, or the man who had been her sole parent for half her life. "I raised you, Chloe. I was there for every nightmare, every heartbreak, every triumph. And you didn't think I deserved to see you get married? It's not about deserving, Daddy. It's about fitting in. Fitting in. I no longer fit into the life she was building, the life Jason had dangled in front of her, a life apparently contingent on her leaving her past, and her father, behind. I couldn't sleep that night. My mind was a carousel of painful thoughts. I thought about the empty chair where I should have been sitting, beaming with pride. I thought about walking her down the aisle, a moment I had dreamed of since she was a little girl. I thought about the father-daughter dance we would now never have. But the thought that twisted the knife deepest was the realization that this wasn't some spontaneous elopement. They had planned this. They had sent invitations, chosen a venue, picked a date, tasted cakes. And through all of those countless decisions, not once did my daughter stop and think, "My father should be here." I was no longer a part of her special moments. I was the embarrassing secret she kept hidden behind the shine of her new life. As I lay there in the dark, something inside me began to shift. The hurt was still there, a raw, gaping wound. But beneath it, a cold, hard resolution began to form. If I didn't matter enough to be at her wedding, maybe I needed to reconsider how much they should matter in mine. I had no idea that in 1 week, I would discover just how little I truly meant to the daughter I had loved with every fiber of my being. The text message arrived exactly 7 days after I learned of the wedding. 7 days of hollowed-out grief. I was at my kitchen table, nursing a cup of coffee when my phone buzzed. It was from Jason. "Send me the rent money." That was it. No greeting, no acknowledgement of the nuclear bomb he dropped on my life a week earlier. Just a blunt, arrogant demand. I read it 3 times before the sheer audacity of it fully registered. My fingers trembled as I typed back a simple response. "What rent money are you talking about?" His reply was instantaneous. "For the apartment. It's due tomorrow. Transfer it to my account." I sat there, phone in hand, as a cold dread settled in my stomach. What apartment? I dialed Chloe's number immediately. "Daddy, hi!" Her voice was sickeningly cheerful, as if the last week had never happened. "Chloe. Jason just texted me asking for rent money. What is he talking about?" There was a short pause, then a nervous little laugh. "Oh, that? Well, we've been having a few financial difficulties. Jason's between jobs right now, and my salary isn't quite enough to cover everything. What does that have to do with me?" Another pause, longer this time. "Well, you've been helping us with the rent for the past few months. I thought you knew." I felt the blood drain from my face. "I've been, what?" The rent, Daddy. You've been sending us $1,500 every month since last November for the apartment. My mind frantically replayed the last 5 months. Yes, there had been withdrawals. $1,500 every month, like clockwork. But Chloe had told me that money was for something else entirely. Chloe, you told me that money was for your student loans. You said you were having trouble making the payments, and you were afraid of defaulting. Silence. You told me you were struggling. I pressed on, my voice shaking with a mixture of anger and disbelief. You said it would ruin your credit. Well, her voice was a mere whisper now. Technically, we were struggling financially. You lied to me. I didn't lie, Daddy. I just simplified things. Simplified. For 5 months, she had looked me in the eye and spun elaborate tales of student loan debt, while using my retirement savings to pay for the apartment she shared with Jason. The apartment where they had planned their secret, fatherless wedding. The apartment I was now apparently expected to continue funding. How long, Chloe? How long has this lie been going on? Since November. But Daddy, we really needed the help. Jason's firm had layoffs, and I'm barely making enough at the marketing agency. November. 5 months of lies. 5 months of me thinking I was helping my daughter stay financially solvent, while she was actually bankrolling a lifestyle she couldn't afford with a man who thought I was trash. And you never thought to tell me the truth? I knew you'd worry. And I knew you'd want to meet with us about budgeting and all that. Jason doesn't like when you get involved in our finances. Jason doesn't like it. My own daughter was letting her husband dictate whether her father, the man funding their life, was allowed to know the truth. I hung up and immediately called my bank, requesting the last 6 months of statements. As I sat at my dining room table an hour later, going through them line by line, the full, ugly picture came into focus. Every month since November, Chloe had called with a new crisis. The student loans in November and December. A medical emergency, in January that, with a bit of retrospective thought, I realized was for Jason's expensive cosmetic dental work. Urgent car repairs. In February, which I now suspected was when Jason bought a top-of-the-line sound system for his BMW. Each time, I had transferred the money without a second thought. Because I trusted my daughter. Because I believed her. There was no student loan crisis. There was no medical emergency. There was just a young couple living a lie, using her father as a personal ATM while systematically cutting him out of their lives. My phone rang. It was Jason. Frank, about that rent money. I really need you to send it today. The landlord is being a real pain about late payments. Jason, Chloe just told me the truth about what that money has been for. Yeah, well, she shouldn't have, but whatever. The point is, we need it. I've got a promising interview next week, so this should be the last time. The last time? He said it as if I owed him this. As if my daughter's deception had entitled him to my hard-earned money. Jason, you didn't think I deserved to know that I was paying your rent? Look, Frank, I don't really have time for all this drama right now. Just send the money, okay? We'll talk about it later. Drama. Demanding honesty from my own child was drama. No. What? I said no. I'm not sending you any more money. There was a long, stunned silence. When Jason spoke again, his voice had lost all its casual dismissiveness. It was cold and sharp. Frank, you can't just cut us off like that. We're family now. Chloe's your daughter. You have responsibilities. Responsibilities. To the man who had orchestrated my exclusion from my own daughter's wedding. My responsibility was to raise Chloe to be an honest, independent woman. Clearly, I failed on the first part. Jesus, Frank, don't be so dramatic. So we didn't tell you exactly what the money was for. Big deal. The point is, we needed help and you helped. That's what families do. Is it what families do, Jason? Because in my family, we invite each other to weddings. He hung up. 20 minutes later, Chloe called, her voice thick with tears. Daddy, please don't do this. Jason's really stressed about money, and if we can't pay the rent, we might get evicted. Then maybe you should have thought about that before you lied to me for 5 months. I'm sorry. Okay? I'm sorry I didn't tell you the truth, but please, we really need this money. Chloe, do you have any idea how this makes me feel? You've been taking my money while shutting me out of your life. You got married without telling me, and now you expect me to continue funding the home you share with your husband. It's not like that, Daddy. Then explain to me what it is like. Jason says, he says you wouldn't understand our lifestyle. That you judge our choices. What choices, Chloe? Living beyond your means? Lying to your father? Excluding your family from the most important day of your life? You're being mean. Mean? I was being mean for expecting honesty and a shred of respect from my own daughter. That evening, I tallied every transaction. The money I'd sent wasn't just for their major emergencies. There had been other, smaller requests. $300 for groceries. That was probably their weekly wine budget. $500 for utilities, during a month when I later found out they'd taken a weekend ski trip. $800 for car insurance. That coincided with Jason buying expensive rims for his car. In 5 months, I'd sent $9,100. A new roof, a small trip, a safety cushion, gone. Money from my retirement savings. Money I had earmarked for a new roof, for a small trip, for the simple security of a financial cushion. Instead, I had funded their champagne lifestyle while being deemed unworthy of their honesty or their celebration. As I sat there with the bank statements spread across my kitchen table like evidence at a crime scene, a sickening realization washed over me. This wasn't just about money. This was about control. They had conditioned me to be their financial safety net while keeping me at an emotional distance. I was good enough to fix their problems, but not good enough to share in their joy. The next morning, Jason sent another text. Frank. Seriously. Send the money. We're going to get evicted. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I typed back 5 words that would change everything. I didn't tell you what exactly? Jason called 3 times in the next hour. I let each call go to voicemail. I needed time to think, to process the new, terrible reality I was uncovering. What I would find out over the next few days would pulverize whatever lingering illusions I had about the family I thought I knew. It started, once again, with Mrs. Gable. She knocked on my door that Thursday afternoon, nearly vibrating with neighborly urgency. Frank, I hope you don't mind, but I was telling my sister Carol about Chloe's beautiful wedding. She was asking if you had more pictures. I don't have any pictures, Mrs. Gable, I said, the words tasting like ash. Her face fell. Oh. Well, maybe Chloe just hasn't shared them with you yet. But Frank, I have to say, that venue must have cost an absolute fortune. Crestwood Manor. I heard it's $25,000 just to book the place. $25,000. Just for the venue. I felt a wave of nausea. And the flowers? She continued, oblivious to my turmoil. Those white orchids, they must have cost thousands. 70 guests, a $25,000 venue, and thousands in flowers. This was not the small, intimate ceremony Jason had described. This was an extravagant affair that someone had paid for while I sat at home, in the dark. After Mrs. Gable left, I started investigating. I found Chloe's Instagram profile, one she had never shared with me. The wedding photos were all there, a public declaration of her perfect new life. The caption under a photo of her and Jason read, "The most perfect day with my perfect husband and our perfect families. So grateful for everyone who made this magical day possible. Our perfect families." I scrolled through the comments, my stomach churning. I was looking for a mention of me, any explanation for my absence. Instead, I found dozens of comments praising the elegant affair. One comment stood out. Jason, your parents threw the wedding of the century. Your mom's planning skills are incredible. Jason's parents had paid for the wedding. The same parents who, according to Chloe, had certain expectations about the guest list. The same parents who had apparently decided that Chloe's own father didn't measure up. I kept scrolling back through her feed, a voyeur in my own daughter's life. The pictures painted a portrait of a lifestyle I didn't recognize. Expensive dinners at downtown Denver restaurants, weekend trips to Vail, shopping sprees at high-end boutiques. In one photo from 2 months prior, Chloe was at a lavish restaurant with Jason's parents. The caption read, "So lucky to have in-laws who treat me like their own daughter." Like their own daughter. While I was sending her money for a non-existent student loan crisis, she was being welcomed into a family that had decided the man who actually raised her wasn't worthy of an invitation. That evening, I called my old friend Jim, whose son worked at the same marketing agency as Chloe. "Hey Jim, hope you don't mind me asking, but how's business at that agency downtown? The one Chloe works at?" "Oh, it's booming, Frank. My boy says they're landing huge clients. He says Chloe's doing really well there, too. On the management track, he thinks. Good salary. He mentioned she's making close to $75,000 a year now." $75,000 a year. That was more than I had made in my final years at the plant. And yet she had been telling me she could barely keep her head above water. I hung up and walked to my computer. If Chloe was making that much money, how could they possibly be unable to afford rent? The answer came the next morning, when I decided to take a drive past their apartment building. I'd never actually seen it. When I pulled up, I understood everything. It wasn't an apartment. It was a luxury high-rise in the priciest part of the city. The kind of place with a doorman, valet parking, and a rooftop pool. The rent there didn't start at $1,500. It probably started at over $3,000. I sat in my old sedan, staring up at the gleaming glass tower, and the truth hit me with the force of a physical blow. My money wasn't covering their rent. It was a subsidy, a slush fund for their lifestyle. They weren't struggling to survive, they were struggling to maintain an image far beyond their means. And they had decided I should be the one to fund it, all while keeping me ignorant. That afternoon my phone rang. It was Chloe, her voice strained. "Daddy, Jason told me you're being difficult." "What did you mean by that text? What didn't you tell him?" "I meant," I said, my own voice calm and steady, "that there are things about my finances that you and Jason don't know." "What kind of things?" "The kind of things that might surprise you." There was a long pause. "Daddy, you're scaring me." "Are you okay? Are you having money problems?" "Money problems." Her first thought was that her private bank was running dry. "Chloe, I want you to answer a question honestly. How much is your rent?" "Why do you want to know that?" "Because I've been paying what I thought was your entire rent for 5 months. I think I deserve to know what I'm actually paying for." "Daddy, it's complicated. It's a simple question, Chloe. How much is your rent every month?" She hesitated, then mumbled, $3,200. My heart, already bruised, seemed to crack. "And Jason?" I continued, my voice dangerously quiet. "What happened with his job?" "He's between positions." "When did he lose his job?" "In March." "March." He'd been unemployed since March, but they hadn't started asking me for money until November of the previous year under false pretenses. They had tried to sustain their lifestyle before deciding to exploit me as their financial backup plan. "What about Jason's parents?" I asked. "They paid for your wedding. Can't they help with living expenses?" Her answer was stunning in its hypocrisy. "They don't believe in enabling dependency. They think Jason needs to figure things out on his own." The irony was a bitter pill. Jason's wealthy parents wouldn't enable their son's irresponsible financial choices, but they were perfectly happy for Chloe's working-class father to do exactly that. And Chloe had actively deceived me for months to keep the money flowing. "Chloe, I need you to understand something," I said, my voice hardening. "I live on a fixed income. The money I've been sending you came directly from my savings. Money I set aside for my own future, for emergencies, for the possibility that one day I might need medical care." "I know, Daddy. And we're grateful." "Are you?" "Because grateful people don't lie to their family." Grateful people don't exclude their father from the most important day of their lives. That wasn't about being grateful or not grateful, she insisted. That was about Jason's family and their expectations. So Jason's family's expectations matter more than your father's feelings. She didn't answer right away. When she finally spoke, her voice was quiet but resolute. Daddy, I love you. But Jason is my husband now. I have to think about our future. About fitting into his world. Fitting into his world. A world where I was useful but unseen, a wallet without a face. That night, I made a decision. I opened my laptop and began researching financial exploitation by family members. The stories I read were enlightening and heartbreaking. There were whole communities of parents trained by adult children who treated them not as family, but as an entitlement. I realized Jason's demand for rent money wasn't the end of a long con. It was just the beginning. But I also realized something else, something that sparked the first glimmer of strength I'd felt in weeks. I wasn't powerless. I held the one thing they truly wanted. For the first time, I held all the cards. The only question left was how I was going to play my hand. The confrontation I had been both dreading and preparing for came on a Saturday morning. I was in my garage, trying to find solace in organizing tools, when the sound of an expensive engine cut through the quiet. I glanced out, and saw Jason's gleaming black BMW in my driveway. Both he and Chloe were getting out, and neither of them looked happy. They didn't knock. Chloe used her old key, the one I gave her for emergencies, a bitter irony that wasn't lost on me. Dad? Chloe's voice echoed through the house. We need to talk. I wiped my hands on a rag and walked into the living room. They were standing in the middle of the room as if they owned it. Chloe looked nervous, twisting the strap of her designer purse. Jason just looked angry, his jaw clenched tight. Sit down, Jason commanded, gesturing to my own couch. I'm fine standing, I replied, my voice even. Frank, we need to clear some things up, he started, his tone patronizing. This little game you're playing, this cryptic message nonsense, it's getting old. We need the rent money, and we need it today. What game, Jason? Don't play dumb. That text about not telling me something. What the hell was that about? I looked at Chloe, who was now intently studying the pattern on my area rug. Did you tell him about our conversation? About your real salary? The real cost of your rent? She gave a tiny, almost imperceptible nod. Good, I said, turning my attention back to Jason. Then you know I've been paying for a lifestyle, not a necessity. You know you've both been lying to me for months. Jason's face flushed a deep red. So what? You're her father. You're supposed to help. Help with what, Jason? Help you live in a luxury apartment you can't afford? Help you maintain an image that's built on lies? We're not living beyond our means. He spat. We're living appropriately for our social circle. Your social circle? I let out a short, humorless laugh. The one I'm not fit to be a part of? Jason, you haven't worked since March. Chloe makes a good salary, but not enough to fund a $3,200 a month apartment and the lifestyle I've seen on her social media. You are the dictionary definition of living beyond your means. That's temporary. I have prospects. You've had prospects for months. In the meantime, I've been funding your charade, all while being told I'm too much of an embarrassment to watch my own daughter get married. Chloe finally looked up, her eyes swimming with tears. Daddy, that's not fair. What's not fair, Chloe? That I'm upset about being lied to and excluded? Or that I'm questioning why I should keep paying for an apartment I'm not even welcome in? You can visit any time you want, she cried. Can I? When have you ever invited me? In all the months I've been unknowingly subsidizing your rent, have you ever once said, Dad, come on over, come see our place? She opened her mouth, then closed it. There was nothing to say. Jason stepped forward, his voice rising. Look, Frank, I don't know what kind of power trip you're on, but it's simple. Family helps family. You help us, we appreciate it, everyone moves on. And what do I get in return, Jason? What do you mean? I mean, in this arrangement where I'm the family bank, what's my benefit? Do I get honesty? Respect? Inclusion? Because so far, all I've received are lies and a wedding album I had to see on my neighbor's phone. You get the satisfaction of knowing you helped your daughter. Do I? I countered. Because right now, it doesn't feel like I'm helping my daughter. It feels like I'm enabling two entitled adults who refuse to face reality. That was it. Jason's composure finally snapped. You know what your problem is, Frank? You're bitter. You're bitter because we have a better life than you do, a life you could never have. And instead of being happy for us, you want to drag us down to your level. The words were meant to hurt, and they did, but they also clarified everything. My level, Jason? What level is that, exactly? The level where I pay my own bills? The level where I don't have to lie to the people I love? The level where I earn everything I have through honest work? The level where you live in this tiny house and drive a 10-year-old car and act like that's some kind of accomplishment. It is an accomplishment, I said, my voice filled with a quiet pride he could never understand. I paid for this house myself. I own that car outright. I have never asked another living soul to fund my life. Chloe stood up abruptly. Stop it. Both of you. This isn't helping. You're right, Chloe, it's not. I agreed. What would help is if you and your husband grew up. What would help is if you learned to live within your means. What would help is if you understood that family is built on love and respect, not financial transactions. Jason slumped onto the couch, defeated. Fine. You want the truth, Frank? Here it is. My parents cut me off. They think I'm irresponsible. Chloe's job pays okay, but it's not enough for the life we want. We need help, and you're the only one we could get it from. There it was. The brutal, selfish truth. I wasn't family. I was a resource. A last resort. So you had my daughter lie to me. You manipulated her father because your own parents wouldn't put up with your nonsense. Daddy, please. Chloe sobbed. We really do need help. If we get evicted, I don't know what we'll do. You'll do what other people do, I said, the hardness in my voice surprising even me. You'll downsize. You'll find a cheaper apartment. You'll learn that an image isn't worth deceiving the people who love you. We can't do that. Jason mumbled. My career prospects depend on it. What career prospects? I asked, my patience gone. Your image hasn't landed you a job in a year. Maybe it's time to try a new image, honesty. They left soon after that. I watched them get into their expensive car and drive away, back to their expensive apartment, and I felt a wave of something I hadn't expected, profound relief. The weight of their self-inflicted crises was no longer mine to carry. The emotional and financial blackmail was over. That was the last time I saw them. The calls and texts continued for a few weeks, cycling through anger, begging, and guilt, but I never answered. I changed my number. I started using the money I was saving to fix my roof. I took that trip to see my sister. I found a quiet peace in my small, honest life. Sometimes, late at night, I feel a pang of sadness for the daughter I lost, not to marriage, but to the allure of a life she was willing to buy with lies. I hope one day she finds her way back to reality, but I'm not holding my breath. I am no longer a bank, and I am no longer an embarrassment. I am just Frank. And for the first time in a long time, that is more than enough. Thank you for listening.